Thanks for listening to the Adulting is Easy podcast. This is Lauren, and I am the host of the Adulting is Easy podcast, and I manage the Adulting is Easy blog at realadultingiseasy.com. Take a second and hit the follow button wherever you're listening, if you can safely do so. So I'm joined today by Hugo, a 32-year-old Cal State Fullerton graduate with a degree in radio, TV, film, and an extensive background in finance. Overcoming poverty has given Hugo a passion for helping people achieve better financial health and stay winning. He currently lives in South Orange County with his girlfriend, where he recently purchased a second property. Thanks for joining me, Hugo.
Hey, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. Doing great. Thank you so much for joining me from across the country.
Yes.
Probably everybody knows I'm in Florida. So our goal for today is to make adulting a bit easier for the listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. So today, Hugo, you and I are going to discuss your most recent real estate deal, which took you from owning one property to owning two. So you've doubled your holdings. So that's pretty exciting. So we'll take a deep dive into that deal. And I'm sure the listeners are also excited because every real estate investor had to start somewhere. So it's really cool to hear how you're getting your start in real estate. But before we get into specifically the real estate portion of your investing, why don't we talk generally about some of your background and how you became interested in personal finance and investing in general?
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. The way I became interested in personal finance was actually when my dog died. I was 15 and I had that dog since I was in second grade, so about 6 years old. And as you know, that's a man's best friend and we grew up together. So my dog was really sick when I was 15, and I took him to the vet. And to start treatment, the quote was $700. And that was just start treatment. It wasn't even a guarantee that he was going to be okay. And I didn't have enough money then. My paychecks were probably around the $200 range at that point. I was waiting tables at a retirement center. So my second option was to put him to sleep. And that's the route that I took. And it was at that age, one of the hardest decisions of my life up until that point, to say goodbye to my best friend. And I never wanted to feel that way again. So that's what jump-started my interest in personal finance, because I knew that if I just had money, I wouldn't be able to hurt so much at that time. Now, the other thing that got me going was I was playing soccer, club soccer here in Orange County. Luckily, I was able to play some away games in nicer cities of Orange County. So I was able to see what was out there outside of my own neighborhood. And I found that really exciting. So my neighborhood wasn't the prettiest. I remember there being drive-bys a couple of times while I was out playing soccer, seeing break-ins in houses, things that most kids in America shouldn't see. Looking at the beautiful neighborhoods when I would go play soccer outside of Santa Ana was also what got me interested in my personal finance.
That's really sad, just breaking my heart. And it's interesting because it's you have kind of it's almost like a carrot and a stick, right? You don't want to ever put yourself in this situation where you aren't able to do something, right? So something's not taken away from you that doesn't really have to be. But also you have this idea of this reward or what can be done that's a good thing to give you more. So you were kind of motivated in both directions when you were really young.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Tell us about Orange County. Is it street by street? Is it neighborhood by neighborhood? Are there some parts of it where you want to live? Are there some parts where you wouldn't want to live? I know you live there now. That's also where you grew up. And is that where you own your properties now? I know that's like a 5 questions in one, but you get where I'm going probably.
Okay, yeah, let me see if this answer or this addresses that. So growing up, Orange County, you pretty much see Orange County split in two different sections. North County, which is everything Santa Ana and Anaheim up to Cal State Fullerton area. And then you have South County, which is Santa Ana, Tustin, all the way down to San Clemente. So yes, when I was playing soccer, I would see, hey, I want to live in South County. South County is where the nicer neighborhoods are, where the streets are cleaner, where there's better schools. I would see all my friends that I played soccer with mostly living in South County. So when it comes to Orange County, yeah, South County is what stands out more to the locals as far as the more desired area to live in and to invest in when it comes to primary residences.
Okay. And that's where your primary residence is now?
Yes. So I was able to move from North County to South County.
Okay.
So
So your first property was in North County then, and that was your primary at the time?
yes, my first property is in Garden Grove.
Okay. Famous from the
So
Sublime song.
yes, so it's the city. It's the city next to Anaheim.
Okay. And then number two is in South Orange County.
South Orange County, specifically Aliso Viejo. So it's one of the newer cities in Orange County, actually. Most of
Okay.
the neighborhoods were completed within the last 15 to 20 years.
Oh, that sounds nice. Especially for me, I'm sitting in a house that's 120 that has like tons of work all the time. So that's intriguing to me. So the Garden Grove property, how old were you when you bought that one?
24.
Okay, so you've had it 8 years.
Yes, 8 years, correct. That was 8 years in April.
Wow. Okay. So 24 is pretty young to buy a property anywhere. I would say probably especially in California.
Yeah, I would think so. Definitely. I mean, yeah.
How much was it? How big is it?
So it's actually a studio condo.
Okay.
It's about 560 square feet. So it's
Okay.
still a decent size and plenty of space for me at that moment. And for those that are familiar with the market, and I know you are, Lauren, with the recession, I got a little tail of it in 2013. So I
Hmm.
was able to get that for 150,000, and
Wow.
it was a bank owned property. And I was able to do that with a 3.5% FHA loan,
Okay. Awesome. What do you think it's worth now?
about 325,000.
Okay. So more than double. That's awesome. And
Yes.
what? And you haven't rented now.
And now I have it rented out. Yeah, I just collected my first rent payment actually a week ago today.
Did you celebrate? Did you frame the check?
I should have asked for a check so I could frame it, but it's an electronic transfer.
Sure.
I guess
Yeah.
I'll talk to my CPA about that and see what's the best, right? The best route.
Print out the just print out your deposit statement and frame it, I guess. So that's really exciting. What's it rented for?
1,600.
Okay.
And yes,
1,600 on a place you paid 150 for. I mean, what's your is your payment like? What is it like? $1,000, $1,100? What's your payment on that?
it's almost $1,400 with
Okay.
HOA.
Okay. Yeah. HOA. Of course. Forgot about that. I've never owned a condo, so I forget about that sometimes. Okay. So 1,400. Okay. And you have it rented for 1,600. So you're getting primarily the appreciation on it right now,
Yes.
which is still going to be huge because it's California.
Yeah, very competitive out here, especially this past summer.
Yeah. Yeah. And this past summer would have been when you bought your new place.
Yes, I closed August 3rd.
Okay. So you closed August 3rd and you had somebody in your condo by October. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, by October 1st. So yes, I did get lucky with that.
And what's the new place like?
Much bigger. That one's about 1,400 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. So there's plenty of space.
Did your girlfriend live with you when you were in the condo?
When I was in Garden Grove,
Yeah.
no, it was just me.
Okay. And now does she live with you?
And now she does, yes.
Okay. So that's good. You needed some more space then for sure.
Oh, definitely.
So what did that one cost you?
That one, 535,000.
Okay. 535,000. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I've also not done an FHA loan. FHA loan, you can only have one at a time. Is that
Yes,
right? So you
correct.
couldn't do an FHA loan on the South Orange County place.
No, I could
So,
not.
so what'd you put down?
We put down 10%.
10%. All right, nice. So when you first started looking, I'm curious because I did the same thing you did. I bought my first house 2012. So you and I we're both 32, so we're the same age. So I
Nice.
bought when I was 23, right, in 2012. So I also got
Congrats.
like the tail end. Yeah, it was literally cheaper than, I mean, not the down payment, but my what I put out of pocket every month is cheaper than if I was going to rent an apartment. So it seemed
Exactly.
like a no brainer. So I owned that place for 7 years. I lived in it for 5. The last 2, I bought a second primary, which was then a primary, right? And I rented out my first
Yeah.
one. So
Congrats.
very similar to what you did.
Oh, that's great.
And I I went into buying the second one with the mindset of I was going to sell the first one to buy the
Okay.
second one, so that because I had only put 10% down on the first one and I wanted to put 20% down on the second one to not pay PMI. And I
Correct.
had my mind set on that, like so set on that. And then my dad was like, "Hey, what if I loan you the 10% so that, either you just pay me back, you don't pay PMI, and you can keep the first place." And so that's
Oh,
what I
wow.
did. So I did the same thing as you. Did it, I guess what I'm asking is, did it cross your mind to sell the Garden Grove condo at any point, or did you know I'm going to keep this place when I move out?
Well, I would say that's the bad part of Orange County that you asked me earlier. I know the political scene gets a little bad over here. So, yes, I always think, should I sell it and go to Florida?
I think you'll
uh,
find things more affordable here.
I mean, you know how it is, for fun, we go on the sites and we look up, right? And
Yeah,
we picture and dream, wow, look at that.
yeah, yeah. For 535, I don't know, 1,400 square feet, two. I'm in the Tampa Bay area, so in my hometown of St. Petersburg, right now, you could get a 2-2 probably for around 300. I want to
Wow.
say in the threes, but not for long because everything's getting much more expensive here. I've noticed. But you know what? You know what else I noticed, Hugo? I don't know if you think this too, but I think I'm one of those people that says everything's expensive now just because I've been doing it long enough. Like people were saying 5 years ago, like, why would you buy that for that? That's too expensive. And I'm like, nah, it's fine, whatever. But now I'm like, I'm one of the people that have been in the game long enough that everything seems expensive to me.
No, yeah, that's very true. You see just how much you could afford. Like if you're in the same scenario, 10 years ago and now, it's like, how much could you afford if you're in the same scenario?
I know.
And you definitely see the difference in how more expensive it is, especially in areas where a lot of people are moving to, such as St. Petersburg and
Mhm.
California is California. So that just keeps going up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, at least how I look at it, probably similar to you. At least we got in when we did. And what's it going to be like 10 years from
Yes.
now, right? 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back, right?
Oh, I hope we meet 10 years from now and be like, let me see your 20. I'll show you my 20.
Exactly,
Be like,
exactly.
all right, I'll trade you these two, and and SoCal for
Yes.
those two in Miami or something.
Hey, I have Airbnbs. If you ever have an Airbnb, we could do some swaps. You have more in your future then.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Just definitely want to, like that song. Wait, can I cuss on this podcast?
Sure.
Well, there's a song. I want to be on my Donald Trump shit, and just pretty much referring to having a real estate empire.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I
not
mean,
not at that level. As far as what realistically one person can accomplish in one lifetime versus 2 or 3 generations, but
sure.
um, you know, the the journey's still the same, and it's exciting.
It is. It is. So your girlfriend likes real estate too then?
She does. She does. We're just, I think we're watching TV or something, and she's on her phone and goes, "Look, I could afford this in this state."
That's so funny. I've
Yeah.
considered investing out of state, but never super seriously. But that's something that a lot of people from California talk about.
Yes. Yes. And I actually see, or just recently came across, how there's different tax benefits for owning properties in different states, especially if you have them under LLCs.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess I have heard that. I have heard that. But it definitely varies based on the specific state, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that. I have a friend who has an LLC in a different state. Of your 20, when in 10 years we're comparing real estate portfolios and we have 20 places.
I'm cheering for you, Lauren.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We're at 8 now. So, do you think of your portfolio you will go outside of California, or are you going to stay in California? What do you think?
Well, I think I'll have a better answer for that in November 2022.
Okay.
But portfolio wise, investment wise, I do see myself investing the states that come to mind: Idaho, Nevada,
Hmm.
Florida, Ohio. Those are the ones that I'm looking at
Cool.
when it comes to the job markets there and the property values there, and how far away those big cities are from colleges and things like that.
Interesting. A lot of people, I wanted to ask you about this. Some people that live in California or in general, high cost of living areas, but for sure California, they think I can't get into real estate investing because my area is too expensive.
That's yeah, I hear that a lot. I get that a lot. Probably every social gathering I go to, someone says it. Yes, along with saying, "Oh, did you see the gas price today?" And so the
Yeah.
conversation becomes a lot of that, especially recently. You hear it more often.
But you don't believe in it. You think it's still worth investing in California because now you have two places.
Well, here's the thing. See, I do a lot of my investment not just in real estate, but like stocks and
Mm-hmm.
the diversification based on politics a lot. So I keep up with politics because that investment strategy actually has been working for me. So I'd be like, what are they doing
Interesting.
in DC that's going to impact what I'm doing here? So, for example, I think it was 2017. I read there was an article that the hemp to legalize hemp nationwide, the bill was on the Senate floor, and they were going to vote for it. So I bought some hemp stock, and then within 2 weeks, like 10x, and then just pulled out. So that was a good win. So that's one specific scenario I can think of where, um, you know, I can tell people, hey, the reason I keep up with politics is because it impacts my money. So another one, thinking about real estate investing, and I'm sure you're aware of the 1031 exchange
Mm-hmm.
and how
Yep.
there's talks about it now, how they want to eliminate that.
Yeah, I'm doing well right
Um,
now.
yeah, see, so as a real estate investor, you see the benefits in that, and you see how a 1031 exchange has pumped so much money into the economy,
Mm-hmm.
and now they want to eliminate that. So, things I think about, things I look at to see where I'm putting my money into next,
Let me
or
define a 1031 exchange really quickly for listeners. So, there's something called when you pay your taxes in kind of two different ways. One is on your ordinary income. So this is when you go and you get a job and you work for money and they pay you and you get a W-2 at the end of the year. That is your ordinary income, and that there's tax brackets, and depending on which one you fall in is kind of depends on how much taxes you pay. There's another thing called capital gains. And a long term capital gain is after you hold something for more than a year, you pay still different rates depending on your income, but for most people, it's like 15%. So, this is actually part of the reason the wealthy get and stay wealthy because most of their income is not W 2, not ordinary income. So it's not taxed at those rates that you see in those tax brackets. It's taxed at a capital gains rate. Okay. That's just an FYI about what ordinary income and what capital gains is. Now, you can take this, when you sell a property, you are taxed on your gain. It's called capital gain. So you have whatever you bought it for plus whatever your improvements are, and then you take that away from what you're selling it for. So let's say you've bought a place for 170, you've put 30 into it, and you sell it for 300. Okay, that means you have 200 into it. You're getting 300 out of it. Now, let's say that 300 is net of your real estate, what you're paying your realtors for and things like that. That $100,000 is going to be taxed at a capital gains rate. So let's say 15%. That means you have to pay the government $15,000 when you sell that investment property. This does not apply to primaries up to $250,000 in gains for a single person or 500 for a married couple. So I know this is getting confusing, but the point is instead of taking that 300,000 and paying that $15,000 in taxes. When you sell a property, you can have a person, which is called a qualified intermediary, take your money, your proceeds, and you have a certain amount of time to identify a place. I think you can identify up to 10, and you have 45 days. Hugo, correct me if I'm wrong on this. And you then buy the place with the proceeds from the qualified intermediary. So you never
yes,
get to take your money, right? You have to put that into another property. But what you do is you're borrowing $15,000 from the government in this scenario and putting it in a new property at 0% interest, right?
yes,
So it's brilliant. But this is, when we talk about, I don't want to get too political, but when we talk about taxing the rich, right? We're not really, these people that they make $1 million a year. I don't know how many rich people are making $1 million in ordinary income per year, right? It's capital
Correct.
gains type stuff. So
Yes.
this is just another way that the wealthy, and I'm not wealthy, but I'm going to do a 1031 exchange if all goes well in the next couple of months for me,
It will. It
right?
will.
Right? Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Put that out there in the atmosphere. So,
Yes.
but it's a way to borrow money from the government. So I didn't know that they were thinking about getting rid of it. I've seen that they're thinking about getting rid of, backdoor Roth IRAs and things like that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that was a great explanation. I couldn't. Yeah. No one else could say it better. Yeah, that's a great explanation. But yeah, see, that's one of the things that comes up, and then I
Mm-hmm.
just make adjustments or move things around as I need to, or planning in order you know, to win.
Yeah. Stay winning. So I'm glad you brought up that you have investments outside of real estate. A lot of real estate, and I fall prey to this too. I love talking about real estate. I like talking about numbers. I like talking about properties. I like talking about ideas about it. Right.
Yes.
However, I don't really want people to think I don't have anything else. Right. And that's why my husband and I crested $1 million of net worth, and we did a breakdown of it. And I wrote a blog
Congrats.
about it. Thank you. We felt really good about it because he's not 30 yet. So he's all stoked. We actually did a breakdown of what we have so that people know, okay, I talk almost solely about real estate a lot of the time, but we have other investments too. And I tend to be a believer in having retirement accounts and stocks and things like that. So do you mind talking a little bit more, Hugo, about the other parts of your portfolio?
Yeah, so we can start with the retirement portion of it. So I started working at a banking institution at 18 years old, and that was the first time I heard about a retirement account. I mean, I think honestly, doing training for 6 weeks before my banking role was probably one of the best things when it comes to knowledge in finance and banking products.
That's awesome.
Uh, so if people are looking, I know. I mean, yes, business degrees are awesome, and unfortunately, I didn't finish my business degree. But those 6 weeks at the training in banking at Wells Fargo really paid off. So at first, my investments were in a 401k. The fascinating thing about that is that Wells Fargo actually matched you 6%.
Wow. So everybody, we've talked about this before, but I'm going to remind everybody what a 401k is. So this is something that's going to be, in most cases, when somebody's talking about a 401k, what they're talking about is something that is sponsored by their employer, and you elect how much of your paycheck you want to go into the 401k, up to right now 19,500. A lot of money can go in there, right? And your
Yeah.
employer usually matches some of that. So in the case what Hugo's talking about when he's saying a 6% match, if you make let's say if you make $50,000, $3,000 is 6%. So if you put $3,000 in, then your employer is also going to put $3,000 in. So most people, myself included, believe if you are offered a 401k from your work, you should at least put as much in to get the full match. Because if you think about that, you're putting in 3,000, your company's putting in 3,000. That's a 100% return. 100% return on that money.
Yes.
Okay. I don't care what even Bitcoin is doing right now. That's better than you're going to get from that. Okay.
Correct.
So do that, max that. You don't necessarily need to go to the 19,500. But what's also cool about 401ks is that money, that 3,000 in this example, is not taxed. So you are then it's taxed later, it's not taxed now. You are then taxed as if you made $47,000 in that example. So you save the taxes. It's kind of like what we were talking about for the 1031 exchange. You're not paying the government your taxes now. You get to keep it, earn money on it, and then you pay the government the taxes when you retire. I'm sorry, go on. So you had the 401k, you're getting a
Beautiful.
6% match from Wells Fargo. What did you what do you remember what you put it in?
I know they had an index fund that gave me the
Mm-hmm.
year that I was planning to retire.
Oh yeah, target date. Yep.
Yeah, so it was just like, all right, I'm 18,
Yeah.
this is when I'm like, 65. Now, obviously, I
Yep.
want to retire before that. But, at
Yep.
this point, up until that point, I'm like, all right, so it's 2000, and then I just picked the year that was.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought that up. And, and how this 401k ties into the property and how you mentioned earlier with how expensive it is in California. So, yeah, the big benefit, aside from the match, right? That's 100% match plus whatever the market is doing,
Hmm.
hopefully another 7 to 8%
Hmm.
on top of that. But the good thing is that, yes, it is pre tax. So, in California, having the highest taxes, you're trying to save. So, a lot of times people in banking, they were getting promotions and raises. And then they were actually, after all their benefits and tax were taking home less just because they were in a higher bracket. So they were at the bottom of that higher bracket, and like they really didn't see the benefit to that because of the net income afterwards.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that as you mentioned, and that's one thing that I like to sell on the 401k if everyone has one, to go ahead and do, if you can, the full amount that they match.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never heard of, I don't think that happens in Florida. I think every time you make more money, you make more money.
Yes,
But
I know that's another great thing about Florida.
no state income tax.
Exactly, no state income tax.
So you have the 401k, you had the target date fund. You're probably the only 18-year-old, that ever had that in the history. No, probably not. But like that's unbelievable, right? Like so many people in their 40s probably don't even have money in their 401ks yet. So that's
I
pretty
have met
awesome.
some. Yes, I met some for sure.
Yeah, I know. So do you still have that 401k? Did you roll that in when you got a new job? Where's that at now?
No, I do not. And just like every journey, there's ups and downs. But before
Hmm.
we get into that, I did want to tie it back into what you mentioned,
Oh
with how
yeah.
expensive it is.
Hmm.
Um, Coming from a non money situation to a money situation, I wasn't the best spender. So,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I wasn't the best saver. That's what I
Hmm.
mean. I was
Yeah.
always a big spender. I'm like, wow, I finally have money. I can upgrade my steak now. I can add bacon. I can add avocado.
Like block your Chipotle bowls.
So you're 18, you're 19, you're
Yeah.
obviously going to go ahead and do those things. You don't have your own kitchen, or, you don't want to deal with that. So I wasn't the best saver. But at 24, I was able to, borrow against my 401k and
Hmm.
use that as a down payment towards the
Got it.
property.
Got it.
And
Yep.
and that's what I tell people. They get discouraged here in Orange County or California that everything's too expensive, or how can I ever save 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 20%, is the 401k and then 100% match that it does, whether it's a 4% match from your employer or a 6% match from your employer. It's definitely something to take advantage of, and it would be what I would say a little shortcut to get to your down payment faster.
Yeah, that's a great way. So you can borrow in your 401k, you can borrow up to 50% and up to $50,000, and you have to pay yourself back with interest. Obviously, there's an opportunity cost there because your money is not invested while you are borrowing it. So you are not getting the gains that the market is getting during that time. And then you do have to pay yourself interest back. I think it's like 7% or something. And those have to be quarterly payments until you pay it back. So, but that's a good point where, and actually, I think you can take some out
Yes,
$10,000 penalty free or something if it's for a home purchase.
correct.
Okay. This is all off the top of my head. So, everybody, please fact check me when you're not
Yes,
driving.
please do. I'm sure it can vary by state, or things have changed 10 years ago. So
That's cool. So that's a good point. Some people think of that as like an emergency. Like if the crap absolutely hits the fan, well, I can borrow from my 401k if I have to. Which I tend to think of it more, kind of use it as an emergency ripcord more than like Plan A. Okay, so that's how you bought the
yes.
first place. So then what happened? Did you pay it back? What went on from there?
Oh yes, I did the payments on it. I think it was maybe like $13 in paycheck that I was
Okay.
paying back, so it didn't impact my debt to income ratio.
Yep. Okay.
And then the rest of it was what I had in savings, which wasn't
Hmm.
as good as what I had in the 401k, because, like I mentioned, I wasn't the best with money. The funny thing about that actually is I was set to graduate in 2013, that spring,
Hmm.
but I used all my money. Instead of being able to buy a cap, a gown, and maybe a new suit, and the $200-300 for the diploma. I used that for the appraisal on the property. So so if you look at my degree now, it says graduation date August 2013, summer 2013 versus spring or whatever that was, May, June of 2013. So that
Was
was
it worth it?
it was totally worth it. Was totally worth it. Yeah, my girlfriend now goes, we'll borrow the cap and gown from my friend to one of your school and we'll take some pictures. And but yeah, it was totally worth it. Yeah, I don't have cap and gown pictures, but it was, when it comes to the market, it was an opportunity that I just had to jump on. At this point, I had been shopping for 2 years almost on and off. So that was just one additional little sacrifice, that I did to make sure I locked in that deal. But no regrets. Totally worth it.
Good, good. I mean, and that's any sort of investing. It seems to be like, especially real estate, but any sort of investing, you're doing that instead of doing something else. You just have a really concrete example of what you weren't able to do.
Yes.
So what else? Do you have you still have retirement accounts now?
No, I don't actually. So, and here's, the downfall of the story, and I'm sure everyone has moments like this. And I'm glad I can look back and laugh at it now. So I did rebuild my 401k after that, especially with the match. And then as I moved up in the company, I was getting paid more. So I was, you know, growing it faster. But I ended up losing my job at Wells Fargo. And I was unemployed for 7 months. And that's where the emergency came into it, as you mentioned earlier. I ended up saving my property. I actually had a date already that they made me aware of that, hey, this is the day your property is going to go to auction. And my 401k was able to prevent that from happening.
People do have those stories. And that's why they tell people you should also have an emergency fund. I don't think that an emergency fund is typically going to float somebody for 7 months, though.
You're right. That is not the case.
But this is something that I think is still really important for people to understand. Like, if you have net worth almost in any fashion, you have something to fall back on, right?
Correct.
No matter what that is. Like, you can sell something, you can borrow against your 401k. If you have to, you can cash out your 401k. If you have an emergency fund, you can use it. If you have credit cards, God forbid, you can use them. Just hopefully you get your ish together a month later when you owe the money. All right. So what else do you have? Do you have any? You said you bought like some hemp stocks. Do you still have some individual stocks?
I do have some individual stocks. Starbucks and Apple are some of the individual ones because I see that every day, buying it or using it. I mean, the new iPhone just came out and I didn't even ask people, but they're already telling me that they have it. So I was like, well, thank you. I just bought some more stock of that too. But my favorites are VOO.
Yep.
That's definitely more long term.
Yep. Yeah. So tell people what VOO is.
It is, well, is it either an index fund or an ETF? So it's what VOO allows you to do is actually purchase a portion of all the top performing companies. So instead of owning one individual stock, such as Apple, you're going to own a bunch of the big Inc. 500 companies.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the good thing about it is if one of those companies is underperforming, then they are removed from VOO and they're replaced with a company that is performing. Yes. So what that does is it helps you win.
Well, that's part of the reason the stock market has gone up historically. Like, if you zoom out of the stock market, it's basically this upward trending line. And the reason, which a lot of people I think don't understand, is it's self-correcting, right?
Yes.
Anything that is not doing well is gone from there. And that's a huge thing that is very underrated and not enough people talk about. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, VOO is a Vanguard, I think it's an ETF that helps you own basically part of 500 different companies, right? For one share, right? So
for one share.
Let me look it up. $400 shares are, wow, $400 now? Dang, last time I bought that, it was not 400. So for $400, you can buy a piece of 500 companies. It's gonna be $1 a company soon. So that's just a lot more diversified than like you buy Facebook. I don't even know what a share of Facebook is, right? But you buy a share of Facebook, and then Facebook has one of its 14,000 scandals, and you lose money, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to happen as much.
That just happened
all the time with that. And there's more to come. I'm sure of it.
Yes.
I'm not sure enough to short it or anything. I'm not doing that, but I don't do anything with individual stocks. But yeah, so yeah, VOO. I have a lot of VOO myself, both in my
Nice.
Roth and in our brokerage account. All right, what about the big one? What about crypto? Are you a believer?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So luckily, I was able to get into Dogecoin before it was even 1 cent.
I
Um,
didn't know that was even possible to get in before something was 1 cent. Jeez.
but I didn't sell when it hit 70 cents. So that was the bad part.
Yeah.
But I do consider myself blessed now because, earlier in my investment journey, I was trying to take profits because I
Hmm.
needed cash. And now
Yeah.
I could let it sit there and then just, it feels good. It just feels good to let it sit there. Like you mentioned, our VOO is at 400. I didn't even know,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just set
No.
up recurring automatic in there and dollar cost averaging. So I have shifted my investing, well, more investing now and then, trading before. Definitely into crypto. I actually am a shareholder on the Exodus wallet as well. That's so
Okay.
much I believe in it. And I have a couple NFTs, and that's been fun lately. And I got my girlfriend into that. With smart contracts on Solana, buy an NFT, I list it, 2 or 3 times the price, and then I go to sleep, and then it's gone. It's not there, but my wallet, has a bigger balance, and that feels great. I think I've only been doing that for about 2 weeks now, and I've
Yeah.
averaged, I'm like almost at 1,300, so I'm averaging about $100 a week. I mean, I'm sorry, $100 a day, just flipping NFTs.
That's so interesting. I so NFT guys, it stands for non-fungible token, and that's all I can tell you about that. That's it. That's all I've got for you. I don't know anything about these things.
Well, let me add more to it. So yes, it does stand for non-fungible token, and you're owning a piece of art in the blockchain of your choice, whether it's Cardano, Ethereum, or Solana. And a lot of the times, these NFTs have a purpose in the blockchain. So if you're buying a
Hmm.
piece of art that's, for example, a car or a motorcycle, a lot of the times these projects build a game around that NFT. So now you have a little car NFT, and now you're going to race on the blockchain. And in this case, you're going to be able to race for more Cardanos and win. So I think it's a great opportunity for people because, I mean, if you look at video game stocks, I mean, it has some video games ETFs. It also just keeps, they're doing really well. So if you can make money while playing video games, why not?
Yeah, and Visa bought an NFT, a very expensive NFT with what, like Ethereum? They paid for Visa paid for an NFT with
Wow.
Ethereum. I can't say that enough. Okay, it sounds insane coming out of my mouth, right? But I just recently had my friend Andy, that's what he goes by on Twitter,
Yes.
on, and we talked about crypto. And so we mostly focused on Bitcoin because I read my first book about Bitcoin. So now I'm obviously an expert. Not true. Now I need to add, now I know enough to ask like four questions.
Yes.
So he came on and he talked to me about crypto. He talked to me about Bitcoin, and I didn't even think to ask him about NFTs at the time. But so that's another thing too. So what I love about this conversation, Hugo, is, and everybody says it, it's so cliche, but I'm going to say it again anyways. Personal
Let's see.
finance is personal, right? Like the mix that works for
Yes.
me and the mix that works for
Exactly.
you and the mix that works for my friend Andy, the mix that works for Stephen Wealthy who came on, the frugal gay who came on, the mix that works for everyone is going to be different. And that's totally cool. And that's what I hope everybody's getting from this, this personal finance podcast, other personal finance podcasts, books, blogs, reading tweets, whatever it is. As you're doing your research and as you're learning, you kind of have to decide what works for you. My husband and I, we have like $1,000, $2,000 of crypto right now. We
Nice.
don't know enough about it to put more, right? So, but we know a lot about real estate. We know a good bit about stocks. And then my husband is a part owner of his engineering firm. So that's where 99 point whatever percent of our net worth is right now, right? And
That's
we're
awesome.
trying to keep our real estate around 50%. We're about to tip that, I think, a little bit past that. But what we'll do is we'll double down into our brokerage after we buy our next property, and then balance back out into 40% stocks, 10% for his engineering firm, and then 50% for real estate. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking like just so openly. And that's what I love about everybody that comes on is you're telling me we're of course like we mainly want to talk about your real estate properties and that's cool, but for telling me your whole picture because I want people to know that not everybody that comes on just does one thing. And actually, you mentioned diversification. If part of your portfolio, right? If Bitcoin has one of its bad days, right?
Yes,
But the real estate market stays the same, stock market goes up, right? It's not as bad of an impact on your portfolio and therefore on your emotions as if you
correct.
had only Bitcoin, right? So that's why I think that's important. And I really appreciate you coming on to talk about this stuff.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because that's where a lot of people don't start taking the journey because they do feel it has to be like a one size fits all. And then they go, oh, that doesn't fit for me. And then they lose motivation or don't want to do it. Like for example, some people have a 3 month emergency fund and some people have a 6 month emergency fund, or,
Yep.
some people save for their down payment. Other people, they use their 401k for a down payment. There's no one size fits all. And the thing I like about investing in general is the critical thinking that comes behind it to find strategies to win. I mean, I find that as a game, like it's really fun. So yeah, if there's a message that people, should take away from today's episode is it's not a one size fits all and personal finance is personal. And, they could reach out to you, I'm sure. They could reach out to me with any questions and um, you know, be able to provide some insight, more detail in the scenarios of what they want to do out there.
With that, is there anything else you want to add, or should we skip right to you telling everybody how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, people, I want to see you win. I mean, it's possible. I hope I added some value to your ears today, and thank you for tuning in. Um, if it could be, Lauren did it at 23 and I did it at 24 in California. Like it could be done. It's possible. But again, it's personal finance. Everyone's different. You don't have to be that age. A lot of people are afraid to be seen starting from the bottom. But as Lauren mentioned earlier, you have to start from somewhere. So yeah, that first condo was not the prettiest condo, but but that return is definitely the prettiest. So, you can see it that way as well.
Well
But
said.
thank you so much for having me on, Lauren. Very excited to see your journey and congratulations to you and your husband. You're doing very well.
Thank you. So, if people do want to reach out to you, how should they do that?
So if people want to reach out to me, I just reactivated my Instagram again and my Twitter, and the handle is at Stay Winning Pod
On both of them?
on both of them. Yes.
All right, cool. I will put that in the notes. I don't follow you on Instagram. That's why I asked. But I will now.
Don't tell them
Well,
that.
I don't have an Instagram for my adulting is easy. That's why. But I'll follow you on my other one. So everybody, you can follow me. I am on Twitter at adulting is easy. That's where I'm definitely the most active. I'm on Facebook. I'm practically not active there, but I try really hard. You can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com. You can show support at patreon.com/adultingiseasy. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, Hugo and I have made adulting a little easier for you.